Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. It's kitchen time, and this first bit is plants to be thrown away basically, but because I've run out of newspaper, I'm having to use my tray, and obviously I reclaim bark mounts, but the plants I don't want anymore. That was the lelia, full of scale, shriveled, no new roots, and a very, very pathetic new growth. It's not getting hydrated, so it's just flimsy. And they're common as muck. If at the end of the day, if I want another lelia, I'll get another one and start again. But not with this one. So I'm just getting the plants and compost and all that sort of thing go in a recycling bin now, but things like fishing line shouldn't be in there basically, and wire and anything that's not plants or plant material, shall we say. This was that Cattleya hybrid that I decided to try and get some roots to grow, and the first root that grew, the end rotted off. It's just not worth bothering with, quite honestly. Not worth it. I'll get rid of moss as well. That's plant material. You certainly don't throw pots away. And the last one is a shame, actually. That was a present from Lynn, Dracula Chimera, and it won't grow. It's just not doing anything. And it hasn't been doing it for some considerable time, and I doubt if there's oh bugger. Well, they'll have to lump it. I was just going to say that's got the sponge rock in it, which is, I don't think that's supposed to go in the organic recycling bin, but they'll have to lump it. There's not a sign of a new root on there, and I'm down to one leaf. That's not going to grow. Shame. I would have liked that, but never mind. Can't win them all, as I say. Certainly don't want to get rid of that basket. These little baskets are getting hard to come by. There are places where there's stacks, but they seem to be going missing from our country, you know, local, so that you can go and get them. Right, so the idea is now that's to go into the compost bin, along with what we're now doing. This is the important bit. This is a repot. In fact, it's two repots. This is the Laelia purpurata variety striata that I got a while back, that was actually in bloom. Blooms didn't last too long, but then I don't know how long it had already been in bloom. There are signs of new roots in here. And boy, that is solid in the pot. Grabbing hold of the pot in places as well. But this isn't a bad root system as Cattleyas go. It smells very, not very, it smells mouldy. It isn't mouldy as such, but when you get round the back end of the plant here, there are a lot of dead roots, so we will have to have a good trim. And a lot of this bark is well grabbed hold of with some of the newer roots, so that might have to stay. It's going in a Holey clay pot, but it's going to take a bit of cleaning up, simply because it's looks to me like it was potted up without cleaning it. The new bark, this is new bark round this side of the plant, this is good stuff. But there's some older bark as well that isn't so good. So it's almost as though it got done in, you know, potted on, and the new roots have come on into the new bark, but the older part of the plant was sort of left there. And we do have an awful lot of roots in the centre here. The only way I'm going to get at this really is to start cutting the old manky roots off to be able to get at what's inside. And that's normally a matter of, first off, checking if this is the old part of the plant, yeah? So these are the old roots, but although these They still feel solid, some of these. So down in there, they may well have branched and have got new growths on the end of them, new roots, new root tips that are growing. So it would be silly to cut them off at the base of the plant before I've actually checked down where they go, which is right down in here somewhere. I've got a solid mass here, I must admit. It is slowly coming apart, but it's really jammed in there. You know, whoever potted this really packed it in tight. Which, it's a tall plant, that may have been purely to get the thing to stand up. We have done that before. Getting there now. There's a solid mass of roots here that I'm not prepared to disturb, but because they're that far away from the base of the plant, they're not going to go in the clay pot. So they're going to have to be trimmed. So I'm just going to have to rely on the fact. See, that's what I wanted to do, is see where these roots go. They're not important, they can come off. So we can do that now. And then that will ease the load on what I'm trying to clean up. Yeah, these have gone. It'd be great if you cut them off at the base of the plant, then as you try and untangle them you see all the lovely new growing tips. Not that I've ever done anything silly like that before, much. I often wonder, you know, how I got away with some of the things before I, you know, everybody has to learn sometimes, and sometimes you have to learn the hard way. And sometimes I think that's a good way to learn because you remember it. You remember the things you did wrong, providing you knew or found out later why they were wrong. And then you don't do it again, basically. That's the theory. Well, it's still just dead stuff coming out at the moment, which is good. As I said, to get this in the clay pot, this is going to have the whole of the length trimmed, whether they're good roots or not. It's going to happen, or it won't go in the clay pot. And that's a shame, because that is a good set of roots there. But it's a branching root system, and it is currently branching. So it shouldn't be too bad. Famous last words. Well, they're going to have to come off. The length has got to come off. They won't bend. I'm just thinking of the depth of the pot and just taking the bottom of the plant off, basically, so that I can see what I'm doing here. I'm getting there now. Still got a solid bit here. But that's good, they are good roots. That one's not. Let's get that big fat one out of the way. Always think if you get nice big fat roots out of the way, you leave room for better roots to fill the gap. Right, now we're getting there somewhere. I mean, if there are a few old bits of bark left in there, it's not going to be the end of the world. Not in a Holey clay pot. There's going to be so much air in there. Well, that's a solid mass. I'm not going to do anything with that because that's got growing. That'll push outwards from that mass into new media. So we'll leave that. That's going to probably do it, or I'll be here all day. That's not bad, not bad. Of course, the one thing I forgot to say is that we do actually have a new growth. And guess what? We now don't have a new growth. I've knocked it off at some point. I was going to say, and I must be very careful of this new growth, but it's gone. It'll shoot out again It just puts a delay into the process basically. The good thing about it is it will shoot out farther back, although it might just go around the other side and shoot out here, which is probably what it will do. But yeah, that's a shame because that had just started growing, and I was hoping that that would be the catalyst for the new roots to come. But on this one I don't need new roots. You know this would mount, but quite honestly it's too big a plant to mount. It really is. Well, for for practical reasons, not you can mount any orchid quite honestly. Any epiphyte will mount. You know, it's as simple as that. It just depends on whether it will stay on the mount because of the weight, whether you can keep up with the watering. There's lots of ifs and buts, but all epiphytes can live on a mount. That's where they naturally come from. Right, that'll do for that one. I will give that a spray with hydrogen peroxide as it was a bit niffy. So there might be some mould spores or something. And there, see, there's another eye there. That could even get triggered, and one there. Either of those could grow as a consequence of the damage, but they're a little bit far away. Do you know if that was taken off there, yeah, this bit would probably shoot both of those eyes, but it would have so few roots to support it until such time as something grew on it that it would probably desiccate. Because they're good strong, they're good strong bulbs there. They're all leaved. They've got good leaves on there, so it would photosynthesize. It would be a matter of could it grow roots quick enough. And do I want two plants? No, I don't. So it's staying in one piece at the moment. For this repot, it's staying in one piece. Next time round, it might not. Next time round, it may well split at that point, because that will then be quite an old part of the plant by the time this needs to come out of a Holey clay pot, because they tend to go in there for some considerable time. That's the whole idea of the Holey clay pots. They go in there to stay for some time. Right, so that's that one. Hydrogen peroxide, and that'll be ready to go. So chuck that in the sink for now, out of the way. And then we've got this one. This is the DendrobiumRoyTokunaga, which is actually a replacement for me, because I did have this some time ago, but my Latorias all went to orchid heaven, or if they didn't get there, they're certainly queuing up to get in, and that includes some of the ones I've still got. Now this one I made the mistake of watering this morning, but this is in moss, so this is just going to go under the tap and get washed off. That's all this one's going to get. It's another new growth there, that just knocked off. Not having a good day here, am I? I didn't even see that one, I must admit. But this is probably just moss. Yeah, it's just moss. That's good, so that'll I'll just tease it off now so that I can get the worst of it off. If I leave it to wash the whole lot out down the sink, then it blocks the sink up. But it's not seriously old moss. I wouldn't say it was fresh, but it's not not pongy moss. And one of the ways of telling how old the moss is are all the roots in it dead? Because as the moss deteriorates, once it gets to a certain stage, the roots will start to go, because it's just so acidic. This one certainly hasn't gone that far. This will rinse out quite nicely, and that's got some growing roots, so this should pick up quite well. And what I'm going to do with this one is the same as I did with the last Latoria type that I got. It's going to go in a Holey clay pot, yes, but the Holey clay pot's going to have a rock in the bottom. Firstly, to help stabilise it, because they're often top heavy, and secondly, so that there's nowhere near as much media in the pot, because even though a Holey clay pot should dry quite quickly, these really do not want to have any form of retained moisture during the winter when it's cold. So by having a rock in the bottom, there's less media to stay wet, but still more than enough for it to grow in. Right, I'll stop fiddling with that then and get that under the tap and get the rest of it off. It's nice to have something that's in moss without a solid plug in the middle, which is what you normally get. So yes, that's 2 new growths lost. That's not like me at all. Not like me at all. You don't see that very often, do you? That's orange and mango. And it's because it's boiling hot today and I wanted a cold drink. And I didn't want a beer. So a soft drink for a change. Probably upset my stomach. But anyway, I shall clear up a bit because I'm virtually out of newspaper, so I might have to make a mess on the worktop and then clean that afterwards. It's not a big deal, but it's much easier if I had newspaper. So I'll clean these up and then we'll be back. They're both going in Holey clay pots, but one's going in normally, in other words, just bark and sort of strapped in, probably wired, but the other one's going to have the contrived Holey clay pot with the rock in the bottom so that there's far less media, so that it'll dry even faster. So I'll be back. Well, this is not the best of ideas. The sun's coming in the window, so it's going to cast hard shadows, if you know what I mean, so there'll be quite a lot of light and dark, as they say. So be it. I'm just going to try and find a lump of bark, a nice thick chunky bit. The reason being, when I put the rock in, I need a pathway underneath to get to the hole in the bottom of the pot, so that it doesn't block with the stone. So that's that. And then I'm just going to put some, this is medium bark, and obviously last time I used some medium bark I had some perlite and some charcoal, and I had some left over, so it went back in the bag. But a little bit of that in here is not going to hurt. And the idea is to get that over the top of the rock. Now I shouldn't need to wire this, quite honestly. We will try without and then come back at it if necessary. But it's not a heavy plant really. Well, this has got root tips in various places. They're not sort of all in one area. They're in, well, just all over the place really. Some right down underneath. So it should pick up reasonably well. It's going to get the air around it. But being a Laelia type, the main reason for having a go at doing these this way is for the winter. So that in the winter I can still water them reasonably well, but I know full well they won't stay wet because the amount of air that gets in around these pots, and you know, the fact that it's bark, no moss, I'm hoping they do better. This is the second Laelia type I've tried like this. Now I did actually put some cinnamon on the where the new growth came off. That was a shame, but I'd forgotten that it was there, quite honestly, so I wasn't taking care. Yep, that's plenty firm enough. So that's that one done. That was the easy one. Right, so now I need to change media and sort some stuff out, so I'll be back. Right, now you might not agree with what I've done, but it's too late now, it's done. It suddenly dawned on me the only large Holey clay pot I wanted for the Laelia purpurata, needs a large pot, was the one that had the virus plant in. So I've had to do a bleach soak. So that's why the sun's here now. It's late in the afternoon. And that's what I've done. I've actually cut the plant. So what we've got really, I'm hoping this is going to work. This is the old part of the plant. So the rear end of the plant basically. And it has two very good looking eyes on it. And I think by cutting it there, one of them's going to sprout. Now if this section didn't have a good roots attached to it, I wouldn't have done it, but it has. That's a good lump of very viable roots, and obviously we'll get some new ones once one of those two eyes shoot out. And then the front end of the plant did have a nice new growth on it, but some idiot broke it off. But nonetheless, where the new growth broke off, there's an eye the other side. Okay, it's slightly under the sheath, but that will be where it will shoot out from. Now that's quite a tiny piece now, so the next growth on that is highly unlikely to bloom. But nonetheless, it's going to start a new plant effectively. And the whole idea of cutting it really is that I can now get it centrally in the pot, and wherever the new growths come out, they're still in the middle of the pot. So it can stay in there a lot longer before it climbs over the edge. So that was all the theory that went into it. And I have just virtually emptied my bag of large bark. So this is it. And I'm going to try a different bark. The thing is, I'm not going to get any more bark until I need it, because I've got very little to repot, if anything, for the rest of this year. So it seems silly to that is such a solid lump there, it won't go in the pot, so I'm just going to cut it in half. I know that seems a bit drastic, but I'm just going to cut it. All these roots are branchable, so I'm just going to take it down. There's something solid in there actually. It's like, oh, it's a large piece of sponge rock, perlite, growstone thing. That's what was making that a solid lump. Right, that means those roots fan out a bit better now, so they might shoot out and get into different parts of the pot. So I'm hoping that's going to go relatively central, like that. And then this piece, oh, hang on, where are my eyes? My eyes on there are facing outwards, so that's where I want them. And the most logical place that this is going to shoot out from, although it could go either way, I think that needs to go about, it's going to have to go in first and then thread the other one over the top. These roots, because they've been in water for so long, are actually quite bendy, but they could still snap, so we still need to go relatively careful. And when they pull off like that, they were obviously one that I missed. Right, so roots are reasonable. I may well have to wire this in, but the first job is to get the bark in where I want it. And I don't mind a few air gaps in here, that's not a problem, it's a Cattleya type. But by keeping my eye on it, I shouldn't have too many, if you know what I mean. I can guide the bark into the gaps. So hopefully stick. Yeah, I'm going to try a different type of bark. I'm going to try the stuff from Burnham's, or I might try the stuff from Speciotic Plants. The only problem with that is I'm not happy about paying the postage for something like bark, and I have got a sort of, I won't say it's a planned trip to Burnham's, but I would like to go again before this year ends and we get into the harshness of winter, when we don't really want to think about travelling anywhere in particular. So I may go to Burnham's again, which would be an ideal time to pick up a sack of bark. An ideal time would have been last time I was there, but I didn't know, well, I didn't remember that I needed it. Right, now are you going to just stand there? You're not, are you? Right, now, trying to wire a plant in with one hand is not going to be easy, but it's going to have to be done because this will not stand up. This is almost impossible, but we will see what we can do. I'm holding with my left hand, so that does mean I'm working with my right hand, and I am right-handed, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Now we need to get one end through that hole, which is, I've just cleared the bark out so that we can go through there. Bend that up and over the top so that it stays still. Oops, need a bit more. Like, I can't see what I'm doing, the sun is so bright. Right, so that's got that end. And now I've got to hold two rhizomes. That means going in there to get that one, and then I'll have to come back through there to get that one. That's going to put a twist in the wire, which hopefully I can untwist. Something like that. yeah, that's got them. Now all I've got to do is find another hole to come out of. Somewhere there. Come on. It's terrible when you get a kink in a wire, it just decides that's it, it's not going to move. Right, let's make sure we're not too close to any eyes. Seems okay. That piece is nice and secure. Well, sort of. It will be when I pull tight. And this piece is sort of as well. I might need to put a piece across the back end of this one. This one will be okay because it's only two bulbs. Right, let's give that a tug with the pliers. This is where you don't go mad or you will break your pot because it is clay after all. Pull that nice and tight and then put a twist in it so that it can't go back through the hole. That's that one done. And I can see this other one is still wobbling, so we will have to put another piece on. So that's one done. So that one's fine. This one is a bit iffy. So let's see if we can get another piece in. Might even be able to use the piece I've just cut off. In fact, I will. It's plenty long enough. Right, and you've got to go through there. Do I want to go over the top of the one I've just done? Yeah, I suppose so, why not? Whichever one I go over the top of is going to pull the one underneath it tighter. So whichever way round, it's going to happen one way or the other. So, right, so that's going over the back end, away from that eye. And that's going to help pull both of them tight. So that's going to do a good job, that one. It's better than the original one. That's got them. Yay! That slipped. Let's do it again then. Got you that time. Right, they appear to be wobbling. That's just the flexibility of the weight of the leaf and the pseudo bulb. The bases are not moving, so obviously the roots aren't wobbling. That's the important bit, is to stop the roots wobbling around. Right, no packing down, no making it firm or anything. The wires are doing that job, so you just leave the roots to find their own way round and find some things to grab hold of. And what I like about potting in these pots is almost inevitably the first thing that happens is a root comes out of one of the holes, at which point you know it's coming on. It'll do okay. Right, so that's that one done. So two plants in Holey clay pots that need to get out of this sun, sharpish. So I shall get some water on those, give them a good wash through, because there will be dust, and give them a good flush through, and then temporarily put them somewhere out of the bright light in the grow room, so give them a chance to settle in for a couple of weeks, and then we'll hopefully they'll grow on nicely. But as I said, the reason for doing this one like this is for the winter. It means I have to water more often in the warmer weather, but I'd rather put up with that than lose roots in the winter, because I know it's going to get too cold for that plant. This one will put up with it. Right, thanks for watching, and if you're watching and you're not subscribed, please think about doing so. We're heading up for that 10k mark, we're getting there. creeping up there slowly but surely, and I'm well pleased with the progress. So all those that have already done it, thank you very much. And for those who are about to, thank you in advance. See you next time.